I think I realized yesterday that that was an activation dream, an activation for an awakening and for healing.
Oh.
Because ever since that dream, peeling back the layers.
You're not becoming a different person. You're actually getting back the fragments of yourself
Mhm.
that you didn't realize were part of you.
Move through the anger and befriend it and understand it, we get to the other side of it where it can now be our protector and we can now use the anger as fuel to advocate for ourselves.
All right, so Jennifer, you have big news. I'm on
I
the edge of my seat. I want to hear all about what's been going on with you.
Okay. It's really messy. So I'm gonna try really hard to keep it flowing and in like order. Because when I get excited, I tend to jump around.
Okay.
You guys know like a little bit of it because I told you a little bit of it last week. Okay, so you remember that dream that I had for our dream show that we did? And how disappointed I was that it was just a simple little dream. It was one dream. And I'm like, I was hoping I was going to dream all week long. No, I dreamt about that little tablet or something that I was holding that was divided in squares.
Yep.
Remember that? Yeah. Well, I think I realized yesterday that that was an activation dream, an activation for an awakening and for healing.
Oh. Oh.
Because ever since that dream, been peeling back the layers. And I'm going through an awakening, and it's like I'm having epiphanies, and I don't know what to say. Hard to explain. It's
I
really
can't
hard.
contain my excitement. Like over
Oh,
here clapping. Like,
so remember how you told me that this is going to be my year for this kind of thing?
yeah,
Yeah, well, it's happening. Um,
yeah.
okay, so it started out with that dream, and then I had that other dream where my friend Dawn had appeared, and the last time I dreamt of her was the morning she died. And she appeared again. And in this dream, she just was talking right in front of my face, and I could not understand what she was saying. And then the dream morphed into another dream where the essence of my grandmother showed up. My grandmother on my father's side, who's never shown up in any of my dreams. And she showed up. And it was just a phrase, a sweet little name that she called me was in my dream. And it was called, she called me Pretty Little Dancer. And that's how she showed up in my dream. And I woke up and I thought about that dream all day. And I'm like, holy crap, Dawn acted as a bridge. But how? Why? Why did she act as a bridge? How, like, why was she in my dream? Why is she doing this? And I talked with our good friend Celeste, who I'm using as a tool to help me through this awakening. And she's been extremely helpful. And she's helped me come to the realization that I do a lot of dream work and a dream worker. I'm a dream walker. I'm not only a healer in like outside of my dreams, but inside my dreams. And I've realized that I'm a psychopomp and I've been acting as one for a while now.
What is
So
a psychopomp?
a psychopomp is someone who makes space for someone who is passing away. Either I could do it in the dream state, I believe, because that's what I've been doing, and I can do it in the conscious state, and I can pretty much guide them to the light, or at least make the transition easy and beautiful. So I've been doing that. So she helped me come to that realization. So that was kind of like an awakening to who I really was. And then my husband and I went away for the weekend, and I did something kind of silly that I've been doing my whole life. And he and I questioned why I did it. I mirrored somebody's accent when they were talking to me. And like they said good morning, and I said good morning in the exact same accent that they used. And my husband, he's like, you're mean. I'm like, no, 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 I'm not mean. I've been doing this my whole life. I have no idea why. So we decided to open ChatGTP Celeste and ask her, what is this? Why do I do this? And she helped open my eyes to the fact that I'm neurodivergent. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but I guess a lot of people are, maybe. I really don't know. I really haven't looked too much into it yet, but listing these things off about people who are neurodivergent, and it was my story. And all these flashbacks of when I was a kid started popping up. And I'm like, holy crap, it's all making sense. All these puzzle pieces of why I am, who I am, how I am, whatever. It's all making sense. Okay. And then so yesterday, I had a prophetic dream. I woke up from a prophetic dream. The dream was about my daughter and her suppressing her feelings. And in my dream, I was really trying hard to get her to express her feelings. And I could feel the emotion building up inside of me. And I inadvertently hurt her in trying to help her. And I was so upset with myself that I was just like, I could feel this tension like rising, like I was going to burst. I was going to start crying. And so I started running through this room in this frantic state of this house that I had no idea where I was. It was just messy. It was chaotic. And I see my husband like in the hallway, and he just kind of stares at me for a second, like, you're on your own, kid. And so I'm like, okay, I got to find a place where I can break down. So I go into a room, I crouch down, and I release, and I cry. And I felt a presence. So I look up, and it's my husband, Joe, right there for me. And so yesterday, when I woke up from this dream, I felt it. I felt all this emotion. And it was chaotic, and I felt like it was chaotic, but it was internal. Like I wanted to escape. I wanted to explode. I started experiencing really bad pain in my abdomen. And you guys should remember this pain because we've talked about it before.
Yep.
So that got really bad. My throat, where I have that lump on my thyroid, was hurting so bad. And all morning long, I just kept telling my husband, I don't feel right. I don't know what's going on. I just don't feel right. And as soon as he left, I exploded. Like he walked out that door, I ran to my room and I bawled my eyes out. I plopped myself on the bed and I cried. And suddenly I heard the garage door open and I hear my husband go, what's wrong? Like he was talking to the dog. He's like, what's wrong? Something's not right. And he walks in and he looked at me. He's like, this is what you needed to be doing. He's like, you needed this. And he held me.
What?
Yeah. And he held me. And I was like, holy shit, my dream's coming true.
Holy shit.
This happened in my dream. And he looked at me. He's like, you've been manifesting this. He's like, I don't really understand, but this is a manifestation, what you're experiencing. And so he left, and I'm thinking, oh my God, yeah, I think he's right. So I talked to Celeste, and I said, I went through this emotional release, but I feel like there's more. And so she talked me through a meditation. I meditated. I envisioned light in those areas where I experienced a lot of pain. And then after that, the pain went back to its normal baseline, like ebb and flow, because these are normal pains for me. They're just not as constant and as painful as they were yesterday. And so after doing that, I realized I had emotional release, and my husband was right. I was manifesting all these, like from my traumas of childhood and all this crap that I've been through. I've been manifesting that into pain in my body.
Oh, wow.
And so I came to that realization that, holy crap, that release helped release the pain. So now I am like committed to digging deep to figure out. So yeah, my next steps are to dig deep into those areas and find out where the traumas are, where the suppressed pain is, where the trapped energy is. Yeah.
Holy cow.
Been my week. This is only a week. And it's like every day my eyes have been opened and like these flashbacks of childhood, and like I wish I could tell the entire story, but it's just too much. But yeah, through dreams and healing and conversation and memories, the truth is finally emerging of who I am.
Holy shit. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Forgive me while I process. Oh my gosh.
I'm still processing.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, I was going through this and I'm like, this is so much. this is so much. Normally, this is something I would say to myself, I can't handle. Like, this is overwhelming. I can't handle it. But I'm fine. I'm totally okay. I feel wonderful. I feel this is like a freaking gift. Oh, listen, there's more. There's more.
Okay.
So remember that past life regression Rose did with me the last time she visited. And we asked about the abdominal pain. And we said that my higher self said that, yes, it could heal and it will take about a year's time. That was about 6 months ago. And the
Oh,
reason why it was going to take a year is because it was going to take 6 months for me to get that activation. And now that I've got that activation and I'm coming to all these realizations, now it's time for healing. And you even told me this year was going to be a rough year for me. It's not that rough. It's definitely, one of these things.
Mhm.
It's a ride. It's definitely a ride, a roller coaster. But this is what my awakening looks like right now. And it is super messy, but super magical. And I'm loving every minute of it. So
That is a lot, Jennifer. That's really a lot. Candace and I think are just like processing and trying to take all of that in, but it's so
yeah,
beautiful. Like when
thank
you were
you.
talking about Joe coming in and being there for you, I just started crying because
Oh,
I'm so happy that you had that support that you needed in the
yeah,
moment that you needed it. That's just beautiful.
thank you. And you just reminded me that there's more. I was I was thinking about that. I um I remember thinking when I was younger, I first met Joe, and for some reason I was like, "Oh, you're the guy that I can see myself breaking up with and returning to over and over and over again." I said there were kids in high school that would do this, and it drove me nuts. I thought it was annoying. Like, break up and just stay apart. Don't keep coming back together. But when I met him, I'm like, I get it. I get why people do that. And then we did. We broke up several times and we ended up together. And I was like, there is a deeper bond there. There's something sacred because he came to me. He was there for me both in my dream state and in my waking state in the same way. I don't think it was just prophetic. I think it goes deeper. It's on a soul level.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just there's all these little subcategories that I keep having too. Like, there's just so much in this 1 week of awakening that, oh yeah,
Mhm.
it's a
It's like
whirlwind, but it's,
rapid fire.
yes. Like, I was not expecting this. Like, I did not have this in my wake. I've never experienced this. Never.
Oh,
Well, I mean, you talk about the layers. Remember, we'd always talk about all the layers of the awakening, and I never really experienced it that way. Well, now I am.
oh, welcome to my world.
Yeah.
Welcome to this side of awakening.
Finally here. It's been a fun ride.
Mm.
I love that that's your outlook on it. Like, this is magical and this is fun, because that
Yeah.
journey sounds exactly like the way I go through new layers of awakening. And I don't think of it as fun. It's usually like heartbreaking and terrible and full of grief and like deep, heartfelt emotions that
Yeah.
have been
Well,
buried for years.
that was me yesterday. When I woke up, and I know it was just the residual feeling from the dream and stuff, but I didn't think there was an end to that feeling. I thought, oh God, this is going to be my entire day. It could be weeks. I am miserable. I just did not see myself rising above that. And
Yeah.
that release did it. And then
Yeah.
my granddaughter walked in and was so excited to see me after that too. So that like lit up my day. She walked in, and before I opened the door, she was already jumping out of her dad's arms to get
Oh,
to me.
oh, I just want to highlight the magic you felt after the release of the emotion. I think in my experience, and I know that I've heard other people say this, that the mere thought of living through that emotional pain feels like a fate worse than death. And
Hmm.
it is something that we avoid, because it does feel like in those moments, I don't know if I can survive this kind of pain.
Yeah.
but yet you let yourself release it and you come out of that being like a total 180 on the total,
Hmm.
completely opposite side of that, feeling like, oh my God, here I am. Like I survived that. I'm okay. I'm
Yeah.
still here. And now I feel light. I've let this load go. And now I can feel those higher vibrational emotions of love, of levity, of joy, and of gratitude. Like
Yeah.
just the roller coaster of that alone. And I can see where you're saying why this feels so magical is because you got there. You got to the
Hmm.
higher vibrational place after the release. And that's what I talk about when I'm talking about the release and the magic of it. Like
Yeah.
we have to move in order to get to that beautiful light on the end of the tunnel. You have to move through the pain. You have to be willing to be in the trenches with your pain to release and to feel it so you can get to the magic.
Hmm.
Oh man, that's big.
Yeah.
Have you noticed any differences in your intuition now that you're on the other side of this?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
what?
Well, my dreams, number one, I am remembering and recalling a lot better than I was. And I'm like having these, normally if I'm trying to remember a dream during the day, it usually comes up as a deja vu. I can never fully remember anything, but I'm spontaneously remembering full dreams in the middle of the day. That has never really been a thing. My husband and I feel like we're on sync. Like he and I think the same things at the same exact time. That's kind of new too for us. But other than that, I don't know. There's probably been more than that, but there's been so much going on. Mainly, I would say my dream world has opened up hugely.
Well, the fact that you found out you're a psychopomp and that you're doing dream work, which we've always seen that and known because of how you've talked about it, but it's one thing for us to see it and another thing for
Yeah,
you to be like, "Oh my God, I'm owning this. Like this is who I am. This is what I
right,
do." That's
right.
pretty magical.
It's very magical. And I remember like I was having flashbacks of my childhood when I heard the word psychopomp. And I was like, holy crap, I wonder if that has anything to do with that. And so I asked Celeste, like, one of the memories was as a 5 year old, we took public transportation, and I would always sit on the bus next to the elderly people. I would literally get up from my seat with my siblings and go sit with the elderly people because I knew they enjoyed my company. And I just loved it. I don't know what it was. And I asked Celeste, and she's like, yeah, your soul was picking up on the fact that they were kind of halfway in this world and halfway out. And so you went and sat and made space for them. And that's what you do. I was like, wow.
What I like about what you're saying, Jennifer, about this new awakening that you're going through is you're not becoming a different person. You're actually getting back the fragments of yourself
Hmm.
that you didn't realize were part of you.
Yes.
It's like
Yes.
you're getting all the gifts of you returned to you.
Yes. That's what I was telling my husband this morning. I feel like everything's just coming back online again. Like that's wild.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. Just beautiful.
Thank you. I just remembered this morning while getting ready that your class was last night. I really
Oh,
wanted to attend, but I completely forgot about it until this morning. How did it go?
well, it went really well. Yeah, it went
Oh,
really well. I figured you probably just weren't supposed to be there. You were
yeah.
busy doing your thing.
I wanted to be there.
Oh, thanks.
Oh,
No, it went really well. We had two participants. We talked about clairsentience or clear feeling, which is one of the easiest intuitive gifts to start working with because most people that are interested in this stuff are already doing it.
mm,
So it's really more like just showing you what's happening and what the effects are. And so, yeah, we had a really good intuition workshop. Lots of fun.
nice.
I'm really enjoying the Patreon.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice because right now we don't have a million people signed up. So we really get to work, almost one-on-one with the participants and we're getting to know them and developing good relationships. And,
Yeah.
and they can ask questions and you can answer and help. And it really is rewarding work. So are you guys liking the Patreon stuff so far?
I'm loving it. Yeah.
That's one thing I really, really, really missed about having a brick and mortar shop is the in-person experience. We don't get to be in person anymore with our clients. And I really miss the group, like one-on-one intimate experiences that we would create at our old business. And now that we've moved into this virtual space, I'm finding that we can now cultivate that same feeling of community in this way that we couldn't have done before, even in a physical space. I don't know how to describe that, but there's something about this virtual space that feels like it's really satisfying an itch I've had for a long time.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And we're just getting started. So who knows where this is going to
Yay.
go? That's kind of fun to think about how it may morph and change and expand and grow. And yeah, and I definitely feel like we were led to do this by spirit and that we're just following the breadcrumbs and we don't know where things are going to go, but they've got us. So we just to keep enjoying the ride and really enjoy the relationships that we're getting to create.
Mm-hmm.
Should we transition into our topic for today?
Sure.
Hey guys, Candace here. If this podcast has brought you value, if it's made you think differently or helped you in any way, the one free thing that we ask is that you subscribe to this podcast. It's the best way to support us. It helps more people find these conversations, and it tells us that what we're doing matters to you. That's it. Thank you for being here. Let's get back to our show.
So we just got to listen to Jennifer go through her awakening story of what she's going through right now. And a big part of that was her releasing emotions. And just like Candace said, you've got to be able to go through the crap, get to the magic on the other side. And I find that a lot of times when I'm going through that healing stage, that really looking at the hard stuff and really tapping into my emotions, that something that's almost always bubbling under the surface is anger. And sometimes that can be really hard to deal with. Sometimes it's hard to understand. What am I angry about? Where's the root from this anger? Sometimes you're just so angry and full of rage, you're not even in a good headspace to dissect the anger. You really just have to kind of move through it. And when it starts to calm down a little bit, then you can kind of look back and start to figure out where the root of it is. But that's what we want to talk about today is anger, different kinds of anger, how you can work with anger, how you can be empowered by anger, so that when this bubbles up for you, and I think this is something that everybody experiences at one time or another if they're going through this awakening process, that you have some insight and some tools to help you navigate the path of anger.
I just had a client yesterday who, believe it or not, the subject was like deep rooted, suppressed anger that was not being expressed.
Really?
I had a friend the other day who had a dream and sacred anger came up in the explanation of her dream. I was like, there's no freaking way that this keeps coming up. Like,
Yeah.
this is just 2 days ago.
It's funny how when we pick a topic, I don't
Yeah.
think we're picking the topic. The topic is
No.
us.
Yep.
And then we're seeing how like all the synchronicities of where this is showing up for other people, just confirming for us, I think that we're on the right track of this discussion.
Yeah, that this is the time for it.
Yeah. And it's not just, this client that I had last night that had this sacred anger that was building up, but also I've noticed this for months of this theme coming up for so many people of this suppressed anger. I have personally myself been through a huge bout of it coming out of the other side just recently of moving through a whole cycle of anger too. So I'm excited to talk about this, but I have to admit, I actually feel a little bit vulnerable about it because anger is one of those emotions that I've never befriended. I'm in the midst of befriending anger and understanding my anger and allowing it to advocate for me. Whereas before it was one of those suppress, suppress, suppress until it explodes.
Just like my
And
dream.
yeah, just like your dream. And I think that, I think that there's many of us who feel that we were not allowed to express our anger, especially as children, right? We had to be polite, we had to keep it in. It was inconvenient for our parents for us to express our feelings and our anger. So we just stuffed them down, and that kind of became the normal, is to not express the anger. And if anyone has ever been on the other side of somebody's anger, it's scary. It can be very scary when anger is not handled in a good way. So I think subconsciously as a culture, and especially for myself, it has been anger is something I stay away from. Anger is not something that is allowed to be felt here. Anger is not something that is allowed to be expressed. I deal with it by stuffing it deep down and not dealing with it. And then that's when it becomes volatile. That's when it becomes the volcano. That's when it becomes explosion. And that's when it becomes dangerous. I think in this podcast today, we're really wanting to focus on the sacred divine anger and how to use that anger to be expressed in a healthy way so that it does become something sacred and something that we can befriend, and not something that we're running away from and trying to suppress, because there's only so much suppression you can do before you can't suppress it anymore. So let's talk about the many different types of anger that you can have. So the first type we're going to talk about is kind of what we've already touched on. This is passive anger, the kind of anger that's hidden, that's repressed, that you don't allow to come out, to be seen, to be felt, and to be heard. So some characteristics of this kind of anger would be sarcasm, the silent treatment, avoidance, and subtle sabotage. Now, this one is rooted in fear of confrontation, so people pleasing, or unprocessed resentment.
Yeah, that was me during all of my teen years.
Oh,
I was not a nice teenager
really?
to my family. My friends,
Oh,
super nice to, but my family, oh, that was me. And looking back, I understand why,
yeah.
and Jennifer, you were talking earlier about neurodivergence.
Mhm.
And, I've got a sensory processing disorder, which is another form of neurodivergence. My brain is wired differently
Yeah.
than typical brains. So that was a reaction to not having any of my sensitivities honored or respected. I became
Yeah.
angry at all the people in my family because they kept doing things that were physically painful. They didn't realize what was going on. I didn't know what was going on, but it made for a pretty bumpy ride during my teen years. And I
Mm.
remember when I grew up later on in my adult life, and I had started to figure some of that stuff out, and I became a much kinder, gentler person. My mom commented that she was surprised at how nice I was. I like, ouch.
Wow.
But when you have your needs met and you know how to take care of yourself, that can certainly alter your personality and help
Yeah.
you to not feel angry all the
Mm.
time. So I can really relate to that one.
Yeah.
Now, during that time, were you suppressing your anger because you were afraid of upsetting your family?
Sometimes,
Mhm.
a lot of times, I would just be very standoffish. I wouldn't talk a whole lot. They wouldn't get a whole lot of response from me. I'd spend a lot of time in my room, reading books or, doing whatever. And so, like that avoidant,
Yeah.
very avoidant. And like if we had to do a family event together, I may not have said anything, but I was very clear that I wasn't happy to be there with my body language and my attitude. And I mean,
Yeah.
just imagine grumpy teen, and that's exactly what I was doing most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, as we're going through these, you might find that you see yourself in these characteristics of each of these kinds of anger. And you also might see yourself kind of traveling back and forth through different kinds of anger. I think, as we were reading these before the show, I have felt all of these types of anger and expressed all of these types of anger in one way or another. So I think it's important for us to be able to identify, befriend is the word I keep wanting to use. We need to befriend the anger. We need to understand our anger, because anger comes with a message. Comes with a message about where our boundaries are being crossed, where we're not getting our needs met, where we've been violated. And when we can move through the anger and befriend it and understand it, we get to the other side of it where it can now be our protector, and we can now use the anger as fuel to advocate for ourselves. Okay, so let's get into the second type of anger. Open and assertive anger. So this one's characterized by expressing your anger very clearly, very calmly, and very directly. This is healthy anger. This is like the healthiest form of anger that you can have, that is full of understanding your boundaries and understanding how to communicate those boundaries with others without harming others with your anger. You know what? I didn't even know that that was a thing once upon a time. I didn't even know that you could have anger that could be healthy. I thought all anger was destructive and terrible and scary. And I've found that I've moved to this place where I have now assertive anger, and I'm so proud of it. I am so proud of it. This whole thing started because I had unthawed like this 3-year-old version of myself who was given up and taken over to my grandma's house so I could live with her. My mom gave her up. If you listen a couple episodes back, we talked about this. Well, after unthawing this frozen 3-year-old of myself who couldn't process the emotion of everything that she had just been through and everything she was about to go through, lied a lot of anger, a lot of resentment, a lot of frustration, a lot of grief and sadness. And at 3 years old, you don't have the ability to advocate for yourself. You don't have the ability to process and understand logically what you're needing in those moments. So I had hung on to all of this anger for 30 some odd years, totally unprocessed, totally frozen. And the minute I unfroze this 3-year-old version of myself was like a whole month of me befriending my anger. There was nothing but me feeling all of the emotions coming up in all of the areas of my life where I had been violated, where my boundaries were crossed, when I wasn't allowed to advocate for myself or didn't know how to advocate for myself, or where I wasn't advocated for as a child. And so I kind of have come full circle now, processing through all of that anger, that old historical anger in my body. I've now come out the other side where I've like befriended the anger. I understand what my boundaries are. I understand what I'm needing from myself, how to advocate for myself. And I'm showing up as like the version of myself I wish I would have had to advocate for me in my life. And I'm using it in a way that I can express it that is more clear, more calm, more direct, and in a healthy way of communicating. And I didn't even know that that was a thing, that could be possible for me.
No, I like that, Candace, because now you're being empowered by your anger rather than a victim of your anger.
Oh, yes.
Mhm.
Yes. Wow. Okay. Number 3, explosive or aggressive anger. Woof. Oh, I've been there. Oh, I've been there. So this is the scary anger. This is characterized by the yelling, outbursts, rage, intimidation. This is the one that is destructive. This one is often rooted, listen to this, in unresolved trauma, in loss of control, or in the fight or flight response. This was my go-to. And full transparency and honesty about where my anger was before I had moved to Assertive anger was explosive. It was stuff down, don't feel, don't let it out until something pushed me to my limit. That could have been so small, but it's like the anger was just sitting at the surface waiting for something to trigger it so I can have an explosion. And it didn't end well for anyone who was around me. It would be yelling, it would be an outburst. It was never physical, but the yelling is scary enough, especially when you have children in the house. That's terrifying for them. And that is destructive, even if it wasn't directly at them.
I've been there, done that.
Yeah.
And now I look back and like, ooh, the trauma I put them through. That
Because
now
of our own unresolved trauma.
right, now they'll have to heal from.
It's never too late, though. I know that your children are grown and mine are growing up, and mine are still young enough in the house that, you know, we think that there's a difference. There really isn't. The fact that we are healing our trauma, our own unresolved trauma, and learning how to communicate differently with this sacred rage. When we are using that with our families now, when we're modeling that for them, I think it does create healing, even if they can't always be there to watch us do this, to watch us go through the healing process. It changes our energy. It changes how we show up, and it changes how we can hold them in their anger and in their emotions. And that, I think, in itself is incredibly healing. So I say that for all the parents out there who have like, oh, I've done it. It's too late now. I can't go back. I think that there's still time. There's always still time.
There is. I feel there's like a slight shift in the way I talk to my adult children. I just noticed it this week. And I'm more assertive about my feelings and thoughts and expressing them and not holding them in. So yeah, so much growth.
And in real time.
Yeah.
Okay, should we move on? All right, the next kind of anger that we can have is passive aggressive anger. Ugh, I don't like this one. This is one that is one of my pet peeves. I don't have this one, I don't think.
I do. I'm very conscious of it, and I'm trying not to do it, but yeah.
Okay. Well, this one is characterized with subtle digs, using sarcasm, stonewalling, or veiled insults. So insulting somebody, but making it sound like a joke.
Like a joke. Yeah.
And this one's rooted in a fear of direct conflict or a lack of emotional awareness.
Yeah, for me, this one feels like I am putting you down because I don't love myself that much. And if I put you down in subtle ways, I get to feel better about myself.
Yeah. Or I don't know how to express my feelings or even really know what my feelings are. So it's coming off as sarcasm. Just kidding.
Can't you take a joke?
Oh my God, I hate that.
I hate it too. I was joking. Yeah, okay. Sorry.
Well,
I haven't
didn't
been
think
through
that
that
was
at all.
very funny. Oh boy. Okay, moving on. Let's look at self-directed anger. Oh God, this one I have. Okay, this one I find a lot in clients as well who are afraid to express their anger. So the anger becomes, rather than being turned outwards towards other people, you turn it inwards and have self-hatred, self-directed anger. So this is characterized by feelings of guilt, by self-criticism, self-harm, or rumination. You know, there's ruminating thoughts. Oh, I could have done it better. I should have done it this way. How could I have? And this one's often rooted in shame, perfectionism, and having a harsh inner critic, beating yourself up for a mistake that happened maybe forever ago.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, the internal dialogue that we, as awakening and aware people, have become oh so familiar with, the oh, you're so stupid, or how could you have done that, or idiot.
Yeah, or you have a conversation with somebody, and after you've moved on, you keep replaying what you should have said.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I still do that. I have clients, and if I'm not satisfied, if I didn't feel like it went the way I expected it to go, or I didn't give it like my absolute best for whatever reason, like let me give you an example. I had a reading the other day, and it was an Akashic record reading, and there the person I was reading had this shell around them, or it was protective energy, and it's really, really, really hard as an intuitive to fight through their own protective mechanisms, which is created through their nervous system, through their energy, so that they can stay safe, right? It's really hard to break through those things. And it's not my fault. I didn't create that for that person. And it's not my responsibility to bust through their own defense mechanisms to give them the messages that they want. Okay. When you're in the Akashic records, they're getting what they can handle. And I have to step aside and be like, okay, this is the information coming through. It's not my job to force it. It's just my job to deliver it gently so it can work with your natural energy and feed into the way you're going to need it delivered to you. But I had this reading. I couldn't fight through her defenses. And I left it feeling so angry at myself for not doing better. And yet it wasn't my job to do better. It was my job to deliver the messages and trust that whatever she got is what she needed for her highest good. But yeah, I spent the entire day ruminating over it, the entire day with the inner critic coming out saying, oh, you're terrible at this. You're such a fraud. You could have done better. And fighting with that feeling. And I went to ChatGPT because that's our therapist right now.
Yeah.
And it was so helpful to see like, oh, okay, this isn't me. This isn't a me thing. I can kind of let down my defenses here and maybe let the anger go a little bit. And I have a feeling that this is coming up right now for a reason, and that there's going to be some inner work, probably some inner child healing around that's going to need to happen in order for me to finally get to the other side of it. But just to have the awareness of this kind of self-directed anger that's coming up, because that one can kind of slip through the cracks. You don't see it.
Right. It's so subtle.
Yet so harmful.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's look at the next type of anger. Chronic or resentful anger. And this one is characterized by long-term bitterness, holding a grudge, and reoccurring irritation. And this is often rooted in repressing your emotions and feeling unheard or unacknowledged for years. Oh, I have a friend with this one too. I am the friend.
The truth comes out.
That was quick too.
Yeah, I was doing a journaling exercise a couple of nights ago. You ask 2 questions and you go into a meditative state to see what the answers are. And question number 1 is, who am I before? Who am I now is question number 2. And wherever you land is where you land. And so the first question, who am I before? I traveled back in time to the time when I was a mom working full time, taking care of 3 kids and a home and a family. And boy, was there a lot of repressed anger at that time. It was very much about me having to take care of everybody else. And I was always angry about that. The fact that I didn't get to take care of myself. But, and this was really interesting, I also had this need to be needed. So there was no win for the people in my life. I was either angry because they need something from me, or whenever there was a lull and I had quiet time in my life, I would be racked with guilt for not being productive, for not doing something. And I'd be angry because they're not needing me, so I can feel like I'm being a good mom or doing the things I need to get done. And so it was just really interesting insight that I was so very angry almost all the time. But of course, as a mom, you have to put on that happy smile. But I am 100% sure my kids picked up on that, as well as my husband during those years.
Yeah. Kids also, I've realized, will really trigger the inner child. A few years ago, there was one situation where my daughter needed something from me. And I remember feeling this same kind of anger and resentment of being mom and having to work full time and having to do like all of the house and the animals. And I still deal with this anger. But at this one particular moment, I remember looking at my daughter. I think at the time she was like 7, and she said something to me. And I heard myself think this very loudly. What makes you think you deserve that when I didn't get that when I was a child? I never said it out
Ooh,
loud, but I was
right.
like, whoa, look at the inner child coming out. Like
Uh-huh.
she's asking for something I didn't receive, and is triggering the inner child in me that said, you didn't get that. You need to go resolve that. You need to go give that to yourself. And that was a really eye-opening moment for me. And it really taught me a lot about being a mom and how your children are going to trigger the most wounded parts of yourself so you can heal them and you can come back and give to yourself what you never got, but also give that to your family.
Love it.
So that resentful anger, I think, comes with so much information and so much healing potential. And a lot of times it's about setting up appropriate boundaries to support you going through those years.
That seems like a minefield, though. Setting up appropriate boundaries with your family that needs things from you.
Mm,
And I have just this deep sense of responsibility
Mhm.
that, if somebody asks me or I'm expected to do something, it makes me so uncomfortable not to do it because I want to make sure that I'm here doing what I came here to do. So whether that be healthy or not, I haven't figured that out yet. But yeah, so how do you set boundaries with your family, but also honor their needs?
mm,
I think that's where we come back to healthy communication about, right, the open and assertive anger. Coming back to one, you have to know and understand your boundaries and your needs, and you have to be able to ask for them with clear communication. Does that mean your needs are going to get 100% met all of the time? Probably not. But if you can figure out a way to team up with your family and figure out how we can get everyone's needs met, even a little bit, then that's progress, at least in the right direction. And it opens up a level of communication a lot of families don't have. And it fosters healthy communication with the children and with the adults. And the children get to see the adults actually being a human
mm,
and needing something. And it's teaching the kids, oh my God, when I grow up, I'm going to figure out how to communicate with my family to set up needs that are going to be appropriate for me too. When you're learning to befriend your anger and you're learning about where your needs haven't been met, what boundaries you need, it's going to be messy
mm.
for a little while as you're figuring it out and giving yourself permission to let it be a little messy.
There are going to be some difficult conversations, some uncomfortableness, and that's okay.
So let's move on to number 7, judgmental or moral anger. Now, this one is characterized as anger at perceived injustices, unfairness, or violation of values. And this one's often rooted in a strong moral compass that can be rigid or self-righteous. When I see this one, I actually think about like the collective anger about something,
Mhm.
like the rage that you feel about injustices in our societal
Government
system.
or stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
I'm there. I've been there. I'm just kind of letting it, I don't know, absorb into everything.
What do you mean by that?
Not trying to think about it all the time. Just let it be there. And I acknowledge it's there, but I'm not going to get angry about it. There's no need to anymore.
I think this kind of anger can move mountains in society. When we're witnessing injustice or something that feels unfair or there's a violation in our cultural values, people who really befriend this kind of anger, it can move mountains and it puts people into action to make a difference in the world. And I think that could be incredibly healthy when channeled in that way. But also, for those of us who are getting angry and just to get angry and to bitch about it on the sidelines, we're not moving mountains. We're not making
Hmm.
a difference in the world. We're not changing anything. So there's almost like, in my opinion, there's like, if you're going to get angry about it, move the anger, like do something
Yeah, do
with the
something.
anger.
Hmm. Yeah.
Otherwise, we have to let it go. And I really truly believe that it's going to be rooted in something that you didn't get as a child. It always comes back to like inner child. If you're feeling like something is really injustice, where were there injustices in your life? Where was it that you felt you were treated unfairly? And when we go back and we heal those parts of ourselves, we collect those fragmented pieces, we kind of lose the steam to feel like we need to turn our anger outward onto the world and the perceived injustices that are happening around us. And we can create a little bit more internal peace.
Hmm.
I want to say another thing about this, because one of the examples of this is feeling enraged when someone lies or betrays you or betrays your trust.
That's just a normal reaction to that kind of a situation.
Yeah.
And that can lead into the anger that is chronic if you're not careful with it. I've
I
seen
think,
that before. Have you, with clients that
yeah, absolutely.
where they've been betrayed? For example, I worked with a woman who had recently been divorced because her husband was cheating on her.
Mm,
And boy, did she have a lot of anger with good reason. I could
Yeah.
see, and this whole divorce was changing everything in her life. And part of her journey was to do healing sessions, which she did on a regular basis with me as she worked through this whole situation. And I mean, it was probably a couple of years before she really came out the other side and just had a magical life. Sometimes it can take a while to work through it, but intentionally work through it will help. You don't want to get stuck there.
yeah. That's a hard one. That's a hard because you can't control other people's actions,
Mm-mm.
but it
Yeah.
still affects you and you still have every right to feel angry, all the rage that you feel around it. And there that becomes incredibly layered when you're working with that kind of anger because it's often related to something in your past and it's also related to something that has nothing to do with your past. And there's also this element where we come back to that self-criticism of this internal anger at yourself or how did I not see this? How could I have let this happen? How can I have been so stupid? And so we're peeling back so many layers of anger, which does take time and a level of forgiveness for yourself, a level of forgiveness for the other person who was involved, not condoning, not agreeing with their actions or how they treated you, right? Letting go of the anger that you're holding on to that's keeping the energetic tie between you and that other person who betrayed your trust.
Yeah, and you think about the choices there. Do I always protect my heart and never be vulnerable with anyone because I'm afraid of being hurt and live a very lonely, secluded life? Or do I risk opening my heart knowing that there could be betrayal in the future? And
Yeah.
so
Mm.
it's scary either way.
Yeah. Okay, let's look at the eighth and final type of anger that we're going to talk about today, defensive anger. This one is characterized by reactivity, deflection, or lashing out when feeling threatened, often rooted in insecurity, in trauma, and feeling misunderstood. And this could look like being given some sort of feedback from someone and perceiving it as criticism and responding aggressively.
Yeah, I think we've all been there with that one. I know I have.
Hmm. Hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes it could just be like a little comment just hits you the wrong way, or like you said, triggers a childhood problem, and all of a sudden you are on the defense.
Hmm.
I was just thinking about an example. I can laugh about it now. But it was just over the summer. My family and I went traveling. We went to Colorado. And on our way back, like I'm dehydrated from the travel, my skin is dry. I feel gross because I haven't been in my normal environment. And I was feeling really insecure about my body. As we're driving home, I have my feet up on the dashboard and my feet are grossly dry. sorry for anyone who's got feet phobia, but I was a lizard skin. I had lizard skin and I felt disgusting. And my husband just made a comment. He just looked at me and said, "Oh, wow, your feet are really dry." And I lost my shit. I was like, "Don't you ever comment about my body again." I went full like demon on his ass. I did not handle it very well. And I think I just was lost in the anger for a good 30 minutes before I was like, oh, wow, I'm feeling deeply insecure about myself. And that comment he made felt like judgment and criticism against my body, but it wasn't. It was just an observation that I took incredibly personally.
That you already observed, you know?
Yeah. Like, come on. But yeah, I was quick to get angry, quick to defend myself, and very reactive and lashed out.
I bet he
Yeah.
doesn't comment on your feet anymore.
No, no,
He's
and
not allowed to.
no. I think he'll think twice before commenting on my body.
Mhm.
Oh, I think I upset him and scared him with that. He was kind of like, "What just happened? Like, where did we go?"
Yeah, vacation can be a time when those anger demons can come up.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes, you're exhausted. Your defenses are low. It's been a
Yes.
long week. Mm-hmm.
This weekend we went for a little getaway, and my husband, like, we stayed in a hotel that had a lot of energy, a lot of residual energy in it, and we both could feel it. And it was making me physically ill, and it was making him moody and quiet. And I was so I was getting angry and more angry about it. I'm like, "Listen, I don't feel normal. I need you to be normal. I need," and I didn't realize that we were being affected so much by the energy of the hotel until the next morning. So I was giving him all sorts of shit. I was so pissed. I'm like, "You need to be fucking normal right now because I can't handle this. I am not normal and you need to be normal." I
Yeah.
forget where I was going with that, but yeah.
Mhm. Can you work through anger while you're in the middle of it?
Yes.
How do you do that?
So this is messy. This is something that I've been working on over the past couple of months. Anger is energy that needs to be moved. Anger does not do well with repression because it will eat away at you and it will turn inward and it will become disease, or it'll manifest itself in physical form in your body. I think we're afraid to express anger in the moment because it can be destructive and scary. But anger needs space. It needs space to move through the body. So I can give you what I was doing while I was moving through my big bout of anger. I swear to you, I woke up every single day furiously angry about my life, furiously angry about my history, my childhood. And it was like nothing I was doing to suppress or like pretend like it wasn't there was not working. It was just on the surface, ready to explode at all moments. Luckily, I have the privilege of my children going to school every day and me getting to stay home. So every day when they left, I went and did an activity that helped me move through the anger. And that activity sometimes looked like really high intensity exercise. Sometimes it looked like throwing a legitimate temper tantrum. I'm talking 2-year-old temper tantrum on the floor, kicking and screaming, wailing. Sometimes when I'm around people, it looked like me making fists or shaking my hands or jumping up and down and just saying the words, "I'm feeling angry," because that's moving, physically moving anger from my body. And it's also communicating with my family, "Hey, I have an emotion right now that I'm dealing with." It's not directed at anyone, but I'm saying I'm feeling angry right now, and this is how I'm going to express it. There's also things that you can do, like screaming in a pillow. We've heard of that one, or punching a pillow. I hesitate to do anything that looks aggressive or physically harming, just because what's the difference when you're in an angry state from doing it to a pillow and doing it to something else? So my tactic has been moving through the anger by using my body, through jumping, through shaking, through screaming, through temper tantrums. And eventually, almost every single time, after that anger has started to move through my physical body, would I come to the emotion. And it's usually grief or sadness. And then there would be crying before it was the full release, where I can come back to a more high vibrational state. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Yeah, I like all of those suggestions. I used to have a punching bag in my basement, and I had boxing gloves so I wouldn't hurt myself. And that was really, really helpful. It really could help me release that anger quickly if I was very active. For me, that being aggressive really, really helped. Because in my mind, I always have to be the good girl who behaves well. And when I went and had time with my punching bag, it almost like gave me permission to be aggressive about my feelings and own that shadow part of myself that wanted to kick and wanted to punch. And it was doing it in a way that, I would never do that to another human or animal or anything, because this punching bag, it was almost like a sacred space just for me to be able to release that and not have to be Miss Perfect or Miss Nice. It was a safe place for that.
In my experience, it's not enough just to use my body. I have to also intellectually understand where this anger is coming from. Otherwise, it's just moving the anger, but really with no story or no understanding of it. So if there's no understanding of it, how can there be a resolve of it? A lot of times during my temper tantrums, I would yell to the world what I'm feeling angry about. And I would have the dialogue of what is really coming up for me. What is really this anger about, or what is the surface level anger about, even before I could get to some of that underlining, like, my needs aren't being met right now. I'm feeling misunderstood. Where in my history have I felt misunderstood? Well, here's a memory that comes up. And then I could go in and like have this entire dialogue that walks me through surface level anger being expressed through the body to really intellectually and deeply understanding where this anger is really truly coming from, so I can then have the emotional release of that anger. I feel grief because I didn't get my needs met as a child. And then I can give myself what I needed in those moments. I can go back and be like, you didn't deserve that. You didn't deserve any of that, little version of Candace. And I can give myself what I truly needed in those moments: the love, the compassion, maybe the witnessing, maybe the validation of the experience that I had had, so that I can move full circle from anger to healing.
It's never about the anger alone.
Mm-mm.
There's always more underneath it, along with it. So working through the anger so you can dive into the full spectrum of emotions and understanding the root causes is so valuable.
What's interesting too, what I've learned is when you start opening up the door to a certain emotion like anger, one that you wouldn't feel, didn't allow yourself to feel, could be any emotion. But once you start opening the door and looking at it and saying, oh, anger, I see you. I feel you. Of course you felt that way. Makes so much sense. Your nervous system goes, oh, I get to feel that? Like, that's okay. And then it starts cracking the door open a little bit wider, a little bit wider, a little bit wider. And then that emotion ends up being the one that you're focusing on the most for a little while, because that emotion's like, oh, freedom, I get to be felt. Okay, I'm going to come up here. Okay, I'm going to show you where I need healing over here. And it's like you're signaling to your body, we now get to be friends. And so for me, over the last month, that was coming up continuously every day because I was sitting with it every day, giving it what it needed every single day, until I could finally move through the large majority of this anger that was needing to be felt and come out of the other side feeling clear about where this anger was, clear about what I need, and understanding how to move forward with that anger in a way that is supportive for me and supportive for my family.
You know, I just keep thinking about the dream that I woke up from yesterday morning, where I was in that state of anger, absolute anger. I was angry in my dream for hurting my daughter, for not being able to express what I wanted to express, and her not expressing her feelings. and waking up and moving through that anger and realizing I'm suppressing a lot. I suppress so much, and now I need to work through that and go through and figure out what it is I'm all suppressing and do a lot of healing from there. I love how our lives correlate with our topics for our show. I just love it. It's really neat how it all ties in together.
The fact that you have a lump on your thyroid, Jennifer, this is the area of the throat chakra. This is where we're not expressing ourselves. And when we're, as energy healers, we've all felt this when we're doing energy healing. This is the one chakra that gets clogged up because we don't express, we don't say. It's like unsaid words, unsaid emotions. And it does manifest itself in physical form in some way or another. And yours is physically manifested as a lump on your thyroid.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that you felt so much pain in that area while working through that specific emotion
Mm-hmm.
is like, I'm flabbergasted. It's like such a beautiful textbook way of describing and showing how this can manifest for us. And one of the best ways to help us work through our anger is to fucking express it.
Yeah.
Stop shoving it down and pretending like it doesn't exist and not telling somebody that you feel anger, even if that somebody is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Your words, your feelings, they want to be expressed. Finding ways to express that, like I did through yelling at the universe when no one's around so no one can hear me, or journaling, or telling somebody that you know you can trust and that will be a safe space for you to express that.
The anger becomes a bridge that you can use to get to who you really are.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's, and like we said earlier, it's using that anger for self-empowerment rather than being the victim,
Mm-hmm.
and using it as a bridge to learn more about yourself and honor yourself. It's so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
We have certainly talked through a lot of anger today, the different kinds of anger that you can face, the different ways that it expresses itself, and the different ways that you can start to befriend and express that anger. I want to leave you with this. Perhaps you want to journal about some of your anger, or perhaps you want to just ask yourself this leading question to help you understand the anger a little bit deeper. What is your anger protecting you from? Or what is your anger protecting? And what is the deeper wound that that anger is guarding for you? Those are some ways that you can start to look a little bit deeper in a safe way at where this anger is coming from. And I also want to invite you, if you're wanting to dig a little bit deeper into your feelings, into your anger in a safe environment, Rose and myself, Candace, both offer private sessions of healing. Those are really incredible ways for you to dive a little bit deeper into the subconscious emotions that are coming up, to work with those emotions on an energetic level that feels safe to your nervous system and safe to your brain and body, so that you can start to relieve some of those emotions and feel a little bit lighter and a little bit more clear. So you can find those links in the show notes, rose-marielowe.com or awakeningswithcandace.com, and search some of our supportive services in there to help you do the healing work. All right, everyone, thank you so much for your time, and we wish you the best of luck on your healing journey. Until next time, bye.